feel really fortunate to be able to witness this current wave of Black women who've decided that they want to invest themselves into forging community. We're lucky. But recently I've been concerned because although we are creating these incredible spaces where people can feel seen and validated and proud, we are failing at creating mechanisms for accountability and restoration. That's just as important. I've run for Harriet for 7 years because I am deeply invested in serving communities that are so often overlooked and exploited. But if there's one thing that I've learned in that time, it's that even when you have the best intentions, even when you want to do everything right, you're gonna make mistakes. The only thing you can do is be humble and prepare yourself to respond positively to correction. Making mistakes is natural. It's a part of growth, it's a part of learning. But that doesn't mean that being wrong, especially in public, does not scare the hell out of me. The naturalness of error is a difficult thing to reconcile with our current drag and cancel culture. And I know that as much as I love my sisters, I have to love them enough to tell them when they're wrong, even if that puts us on opposing sides. Because sisterhood is not just about performing joy and Black girl magic and hugs. It's messy. And because the foundation of the work I do is rooted in a Black queer feminist framework, sisterhood must always orient us toward justice. So that brings us back to the point. Black women, especially Black women with the most privilege, have to be better about holding each other accountable for the harm we cause. That's sisterhood. Yes, misogynoir is real, but we privileged Black women can also be the proponents of some real damaging, dangerous stuff. I see it all the time, from colorism, classism, homophobia, transphobia. It's gotta stop. And I also see that when less privileged people try to bring up a legitimate grievance, there are always Black women who refuse to interrogate it sufficiently. It's common to approach conversations about resources and visibility only from a place of lack. Those of us who occupy any space on the margins want more room for ourselves. And that means that sometimes we neglect how we are participating in the marginalization of other people. Sometimes we call that self-preservation, and it's fitting, but it can also be selfishness. It can also be attempting to use the master's tools. I see this so often in conversations that attempt to center queer or trans women. And y'all, that is so ironic because it's queer Black women, Audre Lorde, Alice Walker, Barbara Smith, Cheryl Clark, and so many more, who created the language that we use to talk about liberation. Alice Walker included women who love other women in her definition of womanism. In that definition, Walker said that womanists are committed to survival and wholeness of entire people. Entire people. That means we cannot be asking folks to shrink or hide themselves. That means that when we are called out on our damaging ways, we cannot adopt the same postures as the white folks we say are fragile. And this is the messiness of community, because often our first inclination is to close ranks. But if we are committed to the survival and wholeness of entire people, we have to be diligent about making sure that the oppressions that we fight in the mainstream are not recreated within our communities. And listen, I know that's hard. Because if we are asking people to bring their full selves into this space, then that means that they are necessarily bringing with them destructive ideas about class and color and queerness. And we've got to chip away at that bit by bit. And I want to make it completely clear that I've backed away from this notion of discarding people in the name of social justice. But we can't just point fingers outward. We've got to do some self-work. So how to do that? Well, to begin, we've got to put aside any notions about the inherent moral superiority of Black women. Yeah, Black girls are magic, but we can also be violent and cruel and amoral. But the good news is we don't have to work through this mess ourselves thanks to the mainstreaming of feminist ideas. We're all working through our stuff. I know that I am a work in progress, so I'm inclined to be gentler with people when I see them make mistakes. That does not mean blanketly excusing the inexcusable or trying to talk over people with less privilege. And then we have to really wrestle with what intersectionality means and how we can use that frame to unlock visionary potential. Here's what Kimberly Crenshaw had to say about it.
A lot of people, particularly those who haven't followed demarginalizing from its initial iteration, often mistakenly think that intersectionality is only about multiple identities. I've got 3, you've got 6, the identity question goes on and on. Some colleagues in Germany undertook to count how many intersections there are. Last count, there were like 17 or something. It was an attempt to map them all. That's not, at least my articulation of intersectionality. Intersectionality is not primarily about identity. It's about how structures make certain identities the consequence of and the vehicle for vulnerability.
Intersectionality is not a buzzword. It's not just a tool to bludgeon those to whom we are less privileged. It has to be a way of seeing and moving through the world, and understanding that privilege and power depends entirely on context. It shifts from moment to moment. That's why your identity is never a pass to be abusive or obtuse. And look, I will not endorse Black women being scapegoats. We're not more anything than anyone else. We deserve grace, and we should not be held to higher standards. And if justice is the goal, the aim can never be doing harm with impunity. It has to always be about living in right relationship with one another. And therein lies immense possibility for inclusiveness. Don't be taken aback when you experience consequences for your actions, no matter who you are. That's just what happens when you're trying to bring everyone along. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check out all of the resources linked below. And if you learned something, leave a tip.